You know, they never tell you this part in the church flyer, that people God uses the most are often the ones who hurt the deepest, and that messes with their theology. Because we've been trained to think obedience equals ease and faithfulness equals favor. Suffering equals punishment. But the scripture quietly destroys that lie. Look closely. The closer someone walks with God, the heavier their load gets. Not because God is cruel, but because proximity brings assignment. Paul wasn't suffering because he was off track. He was suffering because he was on target. The beatings, the prisons, the betrayal, the isolation, and not one time did Paul ever say, God left me. Instead, he calls it fellowship, and that word should bother you, because it means suffering isn't always a detour. Sometimes it's the route. God doesn't hand heavy callings to shallow roots. Pressure reveals capacity. Fire reveals purity. Weight reveals trust. This is why spectators chase comfort, and while servants inherit scars. The apostles didn't die confused. They died convinced. Peter wasn't punished. He was prepared, stripped of his ego, broken of self-reliance, anchored in eternity. Here's the part nobody likes to admit. Suffering gives authority that charisma can't fake. Anyone can preach blessings. Only the crushed can preach hope without lying. Pain makes the message believable. Scars preach louder than slogans. And if suffering meant God's absent, the cross would have exposed heaven as a fraud. But the cross does the opposite. It proves the obedience doesn't exempt you from pain. It often escorts you into it. Jesus didn't avoid the suffering. He walked straight through it. And resurrection followed after surrender, not before. God uses suffering to loosen your grip on this world, because anything you cling to can be used against you. Comfort keeps people asleep. Pain wakes them up. And no suffering is wasted. Every tear becomes language. Every scar becomes a map for someone else trying to survive the fire. So if you're serving faithfully and hurting deeply, this isn't abandonment. It's entrustment. The weight that you're carrying means heaven thinks you can hold it. And what feels like loss right now is being shaped into legacy. Stay awake. Stay faithful. The story isn't over.